Hello y'all, how you doing? We are having another snow day. As you can see, we have gotten more snow this year than we've probably gotten in the last decade. It's more like it used to be. We used to get a ton of snow. Now we hardly get any, and it kind of is reminding me of the olden days, so to speak. I'm out here to get some firewood, but I have to do a couple things in my greenhouse, so I thought I would grab my camera and hope it cooperates because it's been acting weird, and bring you guys along with me. I needed some potting soil, so I got some last night at Walmart, and it's not what I usually like to buy, but of all the varieties they have out this time of year, this is the best. And it's frozen, so I need to get it moved in my greenhouse so it can thaw and I can actually use it. Those tomatoes right there are why I need the soil. I started these tomatoes with the intentions of potting them up into a large pot, so I will have some earlier tomatoes for eating. Most of these are cherries, which produce earlier than slicers anyway, so I'm just hoping to get a jump start. These are just a couple. These right here are some of the onions we started together. I put them in my house under the lights, and then once they start to sprout really well, I brought them out here. These are the bunching onions we started together, and these are Walla Walla onions. Because I've got to wait for that soil to thaw, it'll probably be a day or two my time before I'm able to get back out here. But I will see you guys in the blink of an eye, literally. The last time we spoke, I was in my house in my floor in front of my plant lights seeding some seedlings. But in a video or two ago, we started some violas and pansies, and those have started to germinate, so I've brought them out from under my lights and put them here in my greenhouse. I'll let them get bigger, and then I will pot them up into their own containers. I have these little tomato seedlings. I started, I want to say about a month ago now, and they need put up in pots. So I'm just going to use the soil that I brought in the beginning of this video is now thawed, so I'm just going to use these old, you know, gallon, 2-gallon pots to put these tomatoes in. And then whenever it gets warmer out, these will probably go in the ground. Now the whole purpose of starting these earlier was so I could pot them up into something big. There's only a handful I'm doing this way, because these will be the first tomatoes that I get tomatoes from, most likely. Even if I do transplant them into the ground, these should still be the first tomatoes I get tomatoes from. Last year, the ones I started earlier and potted up into a pot and let grow, I did get tomatoes off those first. The reason I don't do all my tomatoes that way is I just don't have a big enough greenhouse. If I had a big enough greenhouse to hold all those pots, plus all the seedlings I start in the spring, I would just do all my tomatoes that way. But since I don't, I like to pick a handful of tomatoes to get that early jump start, plant those up, and then the rest of them I will plant at my normal time, which is honestly here in about a week or two, maybe 10 days. So until then, we've got these babies, let's get them potted. So these ones, when I planted them, this says like brown sugar, for instance, on the tag. Both of these two beside each other are brown sugar. So I'm going to make an extra tag for each of the ones that don't have a tag, and then we'll get to potting. So I just found the tag in the floor here for my Sugar Rush peach peppers, which I'm glad of because I was in there, they're starting to germinate, and I was in there and noticed that one of my containers was missing a tag, and I'm like, based on how quickly it germinated and the container I planted in, I was almost certain it was the Sugar Rush peach, but having found the tag in the floor just reinforces the fact that it was in fact the Sugar Rush peach, so I'm really glad to have found this tag. I do have this pot that I've been dumping like old dirt in that I had started seeds in, or just from old pots. And I am going to use this one. I'm going to use the dirt, but I am going to top it off with some of the fresh soil that I got. This stuff is still fluffy. It probably didn't honestly have very much of the nutrients used because it was mostly just for seedlings that either failed or that failed to germinate, or for stuff that I was potting up and this is what fell off the roots or whatever. So I'm still going to use the soil. I'm just going to top it off with the new stuff. This Miracle-Gro is quite woodsy compared to the Pro Mix that I usually buy. But honestly, this time of year, my Walmart hasn't got its soil in yet. Well, I mean, it's got soil, but it hasn't got all of its soil in yet. So it doesn't have really anything better. So whenever I don't have the brands I want of what my Walmart offers, because I've tried most of them, this is the best one I can get my hands on this early in the season. Our Tractor Supply has even less of a selection than Walmart, and it's mostly Miracle-Gro anyways, so that's not really an option. And so, just in case anyone has a thing with, you know, Miracle-Gro, yes, I use it. It's not my preference, but also it's the best option. It's the best alternative for me. It's really the best option without ordering it off the internet and having it shipped in to me. So the first one I'm going to do is this brown sugar. Now the brown sugar tomato, I haven't tried these yet. This will be my first year growing them, but they're supposed to be really sweet and have the anthocyanin. They're a brown reddish color. So we will get this one in, and I don't do anything special except for I'll pop off these bottom leaves and then bury it deep. So the next one I'm planting is the Sweet Aperitif, and I will say that I have grown this one before, and this is probably the sweetest tomato I've ever tasted while still having that tangy red tomato flavor. Like for instance, whenever you eat a Sun Gold, it's the sweetest tomato, but it doesn't have like that red tomato taste or that same kind of tang to it that a red tomato does. This one has that red tomato flavor, and it's got that little tanginess to it on your tongue, but it's also the sweetest version of that I've personally ever had. So I've got 2 of these, and we'll go ahead and get this first one potted up. Even when I'm doing seedling sales, I will still leave a little bit of space because I do like to just give them more soil as they grow. It helps them produce more roots. I've always had compliments with how good the roots look in my seedlings when I sell them. So I personally I'm just going to stick with that particular way of doing it. Technique was the word I was looking for, but it would not come to mind. So the next tomato I'm growing, only one of them germinated. I planted 2. But is this Prairie Fire, and this is by far one of my favorite tomato varieties ever. It's been in my garden ever since the first year I grew it, which was it's only been 2 or 3 years now. But still, out of all the tomato varieties I'm trying, I always make sure that this one is in there. This one is sticking out a little from the soil a little more because it was just a taller plant than the rest. The rest of these have been cherry tomatoes, and I want to say that this is more like it's more oblong, but it's also, I would say it's an extra large grape. That's what I would call it personally. It gets about 2 to 3 inches long and probably about the size of the quarter round. So it's not like a small little cherry. It gets pretty good size. But the rest of them are cherries. And then the last variety is the Sun Sugar. I find it not to be quite as sweet as the Sun Gold. Some people say it is. I've tasted them side by side and it's not. It's pretty close. It does have a slightly different taste. It's still a really good tomato. But I'm out of Sun Gold seeds, so I decided to plant this Sun Sugar, and I will just buy a couple Sun Golds from the nursery because there is a couple of nurseries that sell those usually. So I'll just grab a couple, and then next year I'll get new seed. Those will probably end up on my greenhouse floor, but until then I'm going to find a spot on my shelf to put them. As they get taller and as this place fills up with more and more plants, those will eventually go on the floor. So I have this planter here, and what I want to do is I'm going to top it off with some soil, and I'm going to start some lettuce seeds in here and just leave them in my greenhouse as well. And so that way I can have some spring lettuce to go with my salads. So I'm going to do this mesclun mix. I'm going to do half in the mesclun mix and half in this Tom Thumb lettuce. As it grows, I might pop some of them out and plant them individually and let them actually head, or I might just eat them all as baby greens. Some of these are leaf lettuce, but I think this Tom Thumb lettuce is actually a heading type. I will have to check though. I will put it on the screen whether it's a heading type or not. I'm going to spread some of my other soil on top because it's finer, and it'll just help with getting those seeds started and germinated, because the Miracle-Gro is a little bit more woodsy than I like. By what I mean by that is, let me just show you a difference. This is the Miracle-Gro, and I'm not sure if you can see that, but there are just more wood chips in there. And this is the other. You can see how much softer and fluffier it looks. Let's see if I can do them side by side. I hope that focuses. But this is the Miracle-Gro, and it's got a lot more wood chips in it. And this is the stuff I've been starting my seeds in, which is kind of my own mix. And this is fluffier, so I'm going to put some of it on top. This is the mesclun mix I'm doing next. I'll probably just pour this whole package of mesclun mix on there, and I've got another package of this. This gets sent to you as a free seed commonly. Like this one was free seed. So I get this as a free seed when I make seed orders a lot. So I have other packages. I'm going to just top this with some vermiculite. A couple more things I want to get planted as well today, so I'm going to fill up a few of these 6-pack cells. I will reuse these as often as I can, but then they'll get to a point where they just start to get too broken and I throw them away. But I do reuse them for multiple years before I actually throw them away. And it does keep me from having to buy more, which I'm not sure that these are what I would go with if I were buying them for myself, because of the fact that they are just really thin plastic. But I will reuse them until I can't anymore. That way they're not just having tons more going into the recycling bin or into the trash every year. Though, I will admit even I throw them away, because this one, for instance, it's got so many holes and it's so brittle right now, it's unusable. So it goes in the trash. So the next thing I'm wanting to plant is this Greetings from Jaromir Petunia. I'm not sure how many seeds are in there. Oh, it says it's got 50 seeds. So honestly, I'll probably just get a 4-inch pot and mass sow these. I find when there's a lot of seeds like this, sometimes it's just easier to mass sow them and pop them out and pot them up later. These were so tiny, they were static clinging to the side, the seeds were. And it was making it hard to get them out of the package. Those are so tiny, you just kind of sew them on the top and press them in, and then I topped them with vermiculite. So the next thing I'm planting is Dichondra Silver Falls, and these are pelleted seeds. So I'm going to plant them all, and there's only 10 seeds, so it's not like there's a lot to save anyways. I've never grown these from seeds. I've only ever gotten them from the nursery, so I thought I would try them out. But there's 10 of these in here, so I've got a 6-pack and a 4-pack cell, and I'm just going to plant them all. The next thing I'm going to do are these Brussels sprouts. I have just regular Brussels sprouts. I have regular Brussels sprouts and these Red Bull Brussels sprouts. I'm just going to mass sow all of these seeds because these are getting old at this point. I got these in 2020 and I'm wanting to say these in 2021. So who knows how much germination I'll get, if any. So we're just going to sow them all. I'm working through a lot of my seeds this year that I let get old and really didn't mean to. So the first one is this Red Bull Brussels. And then we have these just regular Brussels. There's a lot more of these seeds than there are of the Red Bull. Hopefully I at least get something. Some of the seeds I've already sowed that's been old, they're not looking too good. I mean, I haven't given up on them yet, but they're not really doing too much. So, fingers crossed on all of these. So, one of the last things I want to do is trim this tray of onions. Now, a lot of people will tell you not to trim them because it puts a hole in them that can introduce disease. And that is true. It can. But also, I've trimmed them back before, even in my field, and they've been fine. But I know that these onions are going to be in this tray for a little while longer, and some of them are starting to get kind of tall. So I want to trim them back so they stand up a little better. And the reason I'm leaving them in this tray a little while longer, if you start looking around, like in between these, there's onions still germinating. So before I go messing with the onions and disrupting the roots and dislodging them, I want to see how many of these other seedlings will germinate, and then I'll either pot them up or it'll be time to put them in the field. Okay, this tray is done, and I do want to reiterate that not everyone tops their onions. Some people have never topped their onions and they get bigger onions than I've ever grown. Other people do top their onions. It just so happens, for my particular purpose, that's what I feel like I need to do, because I do know I'm going to be leaving in this tray a little longer, and I do know that there are little seedlings coming up, so I will probably up-pot these, but there's a slight chance that it'll be ready for them to go into the field before I get a chance to up-pot. Either way, cutting them serves my purposes, at least for this year. Some years I've not topped my own, some years I do. Set those back up there. And as a side bonus, I have a handful of these little onion tops that I can use on dinner tonight. I think we are having some, I think we're doing nachos. So I'll just take these in and cut them up and use them like you would green onions or chives. I feel like we got a lot done today. I'm going to take all my little seedlings that aren't tomatoes, put them in a flat, and take them inside and put them under my lights. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I will see you later. Bye.